Welcome back to Global Eye. Today we're covering a story that reveals the heartbreaking reality behind one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Tom Cruise, at 63 years old, is at the absolute peak of his career. He's still performing death-defying stunts, still commanding $100 million budgets, still filling theaters worldwide with his Mission Impossible franchise. But behind the confident smile and the action hero persona lies a tragedy that's been unfolding for over a decade. A loss so profound that it overshadows every box office record and every standing ovation. Tom Cruise hasn't seen his youngest daughter Suri in over 12 years. He missed her high school graduation in 2024, choosing instead to attend a Taylor Swift concert in London the very next night. When asked about his ideal Father's Day at a recent movie premiere, he gave an awkward, painful answer that avoided mentioning his children entirely, instead talking about making movies and having big adventures. His 19-year-old daughter has dropped his last name, taking her mother's middle name instead. And according to multiple reports, this estrangement isn't accidental or circumstantial. It's a choice, allegedly driven by his decades-long devotion to the Church of Scientology. If you're new here, subscribe and hit that notification bell because this isn't just celebrity gossip. This is a story about the devastating cost of choosing an organization over your own child. About a man who seemingly has everything, but has lost what matters most. Let's break down the tragedy of Tom Cruise. To understand Tom Cruise's current tragedy, we need to understand the pattern that's defined his personal life for nearly 4 decades. Tom Cruise has been married 3 times to high-profile actresses, and all 3 marriages ended in divorce, each one shrouded in speculation about the role played by his involvement with Scientology. His romantic history reads like a cautionary tale about what happens when devotion to an organization becomes more important than the people you love. Tom's first marriage was to actress Mimi Rogers in 1987. Mimi was part of the Church of Scientology and worked as an auditor for the organization. She reportedly introduced Tom to Scientology, a decision that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of his life. The couple divorced around 1990, but Tom's connection to the church only deepened. He even claimed that his dyslexia was cured by the methods prescribed by Scientology, cementing his belief in the organization's teachings. Then came Nicole Kidman. Tom and Nicole met on a movie set and married in 1990, becoming one of Hollywood's most high-profile power couples. They adopted 2 children together, Isabella and Connor, and for 11 years seemed to represent Hollywood royalty at its finest. But in 2001, their spokesperson announced their separation. The divorce shocked the world, and while both parties remained diplomatic publicly, rumors have persisted for over 2 decades that Scientology played a central role in the split. Nicole has been careful not to speak extensively about the divorce, but the fact that their 2 adopted children, Isabella and Connor, remained deeply involved with Scientology and reportedly have limited contact with their mother speaks volumes. Tom's 3rd marriage to Katie Holmes in 2006 seemed like a fresh start. They had a daughter, Suri, in 2006, and Tom's infamous couch-jumping appearance on Oprah became one of the most memorable moments in talk show history. But the fairy tale lasted only 6 years. In 2012, Katie filed for divorce, and this time the circumstances were even more telling. The major deal-breaker was Katie's decision to not join the Church of Scientology, and the divorce documents explained their separation was due to irreconcilable differences. Katie moved to New York with Suri, as far away from Hollywood and Scientology's headquarters as she could get. Under the divorce settlement, Holmes was granted sole custody while Cruise was required to pay $400,000 a year in child support. But what no financial arrangement could fix was the relationship that was about to be permanently severed. Here's where Tom Cruise's story becomes truly heartbreaking. The last time Tom Cruise was photographed with his daughter Suri was in 2012. When they visited Disneyland together shortly before the divorce was finalized. That was over 12 years ago. Suri was just 6 years old. Today, she's 19, attending Carnegie Mellon University, and her father has been completely absent from her life throughout her entire adolescence and young adulthood. In 2013, Tom Cruise filed a $50 million defamation lawsuit against In Touch magazine for publishing a story with the headline, "Abandoned by Daddy," which reported that he had abandoned his daughter because Katie Holmes wouldn't raise her in the Church of Scientology. During the deposition for that case, Cruise expressed outrage at the accusation, calling it absolutely disgusting. But 11 years later, the evidence of abandonment has become impossible to deny. In June 2024, Tom Cruise's absence from Suri's high school graduation made international headlines, while his daughter celebrated one of the most important milestones of her young life at the Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts in New York City. Tom was photographed the very next night at Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert at Wembley Stadium in London. He was seen exchanging friendship bracelets, hanging out with Travis Kelce, dancing to Swift's music in the VIP section, clearly having a wonderful time. The optics were devastating. Here was a father choosing to attend a pop concert over his own daughter's graduation, a father who had been completely absent from her life for over a decade, making his priorities painfully clear. At that same graduation ceremony, Suri made her own statement. Instead of appearing as Suri Cruise, she was listed as Suri Noel, taking her mother Katie's middle name as her surname. This wasn't just dropping a famous father's name. This was a young woman publicly rejecting the man who had rejected her, reclaiming her identity on her own terms. The symbolism was powerful and heartbreaking in equal measure. In May 2025, at the premiere of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, a reporter asked Tom what his ideal Father's Day would look like. His response was awkward and telling. He paused, trailed off, and finally said, "You know, just having fun, man. Making movies, big adventures, having a great time." Not a single word about his children. Not a mention of wanting to spend time with family. Just movies, adventures, work. For a man who has 3 children, that answer revealed everything about his priorities and the emptiness underneath the action hero facade. So why has Tom Cruise chosen to be estranged from his youngest daughter? Multiple sources and experts on Scientology point to one primary reason: the church's policy on what they call suppressive persons. In Scientology doctrine, anyone who criticizes or leaves the church is considered a suppressive person, and members are strongly encouraged, if not required, to disconnect from suppressive persons completely, even if they're family members. Katie Holmes and Suri are not members of the Church of Scientology. According to insiders, Suri's father and adoptive siblings do not associate with her because of their devotion to the church. This isn't speculation or tabloid gossip. This is consistent with well-documented Scientology policies and practices that have torn apart countless families over the decades. Tom Cruise, as one of Scientology's most prominent members and closest allies of church leader David Miscavige, would be expected to adhere to these policies rigorously. Tom Cruise has been a member of the Church of Scientology since 1986 and became a close friend of church leader David Miscavige, serving as a Port Pearl militant for Scientology in the United States and around the world. His devotion to the organization is well documented. He's used his celebrity platform to promote Scientology aggressively, attempted to convert other celebrities, including Will Smith, Victoria Beckham, and Steven Spielberg, and defended the church publicly even when facing criticism. For Tom, Scientology isn't just a religion or a philosophy. It's his identity, his community, his purpose. But that devotion has come at an extraordinary cost. Journalist Tony Ortega, a longtime expert on Scientology, has stated that Cruise would want to maintain his relationship with Scientology even if it meant not having one with his daughter. Think about that statement. Even if it meant not having a relationship with his daughter. That's not an accusation of neglect or poor parenting. That's an indictment of a system that demands members choose the organization over their own children. The tragedy deepens when you consider that Tom's 2 older children, Isabella and Connor, whom he adopted with Nicole Kidman, have remained active in Scientology and reportedly have limited contact with their adoptive mother. The pattern is clear. The children who stayed in Scientology maintain a relationship with Tom. The child whose mother refused to raise her in Scientology has been cut off completely. This isn't about love or paternal instinct. This is about organizational loyalty, trumping everything else, including the bond between a father and his daughter. Here's where Tom Cruise's situation becomes even more complex and painful. Tom has been fulfilling his financial obligations to Suri. He paid $400,000 annually in child support until she turned 18, and he continues to pay her college tuition at Carnegie Mellon University, which costs approximately $65,000 per year. The divorce settlement also stated that Tom had to pay all of Suri's medical, dental, insurance, education, college, and other extracurricular costs. From a legal and financial standpoint, Tom Cruise has been a responsible parent. But money isn't love. Tuition payments aren't presents. Financial support doesn't replace showing up for graduations, birthdays, school plays, or any of the thousands of moments that define a childhood and adolescence. When Suri moved into her college dorm at Carnegie Mellon University, it was her mother Katie who helped her settle in. Carrying bags and navigating the campus together, Tom was busy filming another Mission Impossible movie in London. The pattern has repeated itself over and over for 12 years. Katie present, Tom absent, in December 2024. Katie Holmes took the rare step of publicly responding to tabloid reports. The Daily Mail had published a story claiming that Suri had become a millionaire after a trust fund set up by Tom had kicked in. Katie posted a screenshot of the article on Instagram with the words, "Completely false and Daily Mail. You can stop making stuff up." This was significant because Katie almost never addresses rumors about Tom publicly. The fact that she felt compelled to speak out suggests that the constant speculation and false narratives about Tom's involvement in Suri's life had reached a breaking point. What the exchange reveals is that, while Tom may be financially supporting Suri, there's no evidence of emotional connection, of relationship, of fatherhood beyond writing checks. And for Suri, growing up with a famous father who is simultaneously everywhere in the culture, his face on movie posters and magazine covers, and nowhere in her actual life, must have been profoundly confusing and painful. Every time she saw him on screen performing impossible stunts, risking his life for entertainment, she had to reconcile that with the father who couldn't be bothered to show up for her graduation. What makes Tom's estrangement from Suri even more painful is the stark contrast with his relationship with his two older children, Isabella and Connor. Tom adopted both children during his marriage to Nicole Kidman. Isabella was adopted in 1992, and Connor in 1995. Both remain active members of the Church of Scientology, and both apparently maintain close relationships with their adoptive father. Connor has been photographed with Tom at various events over the years. Isabella, while more private, has also been seen with Tom and has spoken positively about him in interviews. The message this sends is clear. The children who stayed in Scientology get to have a father. The child whose mother removed her from Scientology's influence does not. This isn't about Tom's capacity for fatherhood or his ability to love his children. This is about conditional love. Love that depends on religious affiliation and organizational loyalty. Reports indicate that Suri's relationship with her adoptive siblings, Connor and Isabella, is essentially non-existent. According to insiders, the siblings haven't had contact in a decade, with the first and foremost reason being the Church of Scientology. So Suri hasn't just lost her father, she's lost her siblings too. She's been cut off from an entire side of her family because of an organization she never chose to be part of and a doctrine she has no control over. The contrast becomes even more painful when you consider public comments Tom has made over the years. He's spoken about the importance of family. He's talked about being a father. But his actions tell a different story. When asked at the Mission Impossible premiere about his ideal Father's Day, he couldn't even bring himself to mention his children, instead redirecting to movies and adventures. That deflection, that inability or unwillingness to even acknowledge fatherhood when directly asked about it, speaks volumes about the compartmentalization required to maintain his current life. At 63 years old, Tom Cruise is one of the most successful actors in Hollywood history. His films have grossed billions worldwide. He's redefined what action cinema can be. He's performed stunts that will be studied and admired for generations. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning will likely be another massive hit. He's dating again, recently ending a relationship with Russian socialite Elsina Kayarova and allegedly now involved with actress Ana de Armas. By every conventional measure of success, Tom Cruise is winning. But what has that success cost him? He's been married 3 times and divorced 3 times. His relationship with Nicole Kidman ended badly enough that their 2 adopted children apparently have limited contact with her. His daughter Suri has publicly rejected his surname, and he's been completely absent from her life for over 12 years. He can't honestly answer a simple question about Father's Day without it becoming awkward and revealing. He's trapped in an organization that demands he choose between his beliefs and his youngest child. and he's chosen the organization. Recent reports suggest that Cruise may be quietly distancing himself from the Church of Scientology, with insiders noting he hasn't publicly mentioned his membership in over a year, though he's not fully out. If true, this makes the tragedy even more profound. If Tom is finally beginning to question or pull back from the organization that cost him his relationship with Suri, what does that mean? Does it mean he's starting to recognize what he's lost? Does it mean he's experiencing regret? And if he is pulling away from Scientology, will it be too late to rebuild what was destroyed? Suri is 19 now. She's not a little girl anymore. She's a young woman who's built her identity, her life, and her future entirely without her father's presence. She's talented, attending one of the country's top universities, close to her mother, and by all accounts, thriving. But she's had to do all of that while carrying the knowledge that her famous father chose an organization over her. That's a wound that doesn't heal easily. And no amount of retroactive attempts at reconciliation can give her back the childhood and adolescence she spent fatherless. The cruel irony is that Tom Cruise, a man who built his career on playing heroes who overcome impossible odds, couldn't overcome the demands of Scientology to maintain a relationship with his daughter. The man who climbs buildings, hangs from planes, and performs stunts that defy death couldn't find the courage to defy the organization that demanded he abandon his child. The tragedy of Tom Cruise isn't just about one man's failed relationships or poor choices. It's about what happens when ideology becomes more important than humanity. When organizational loyalty trumps parental love, when the need to maintain status within a group overrides the most basic human instincts to protect and nurture your own children, Tom Cruise's story is a cautionary tale about the cost of devotion, not to a craft or a passion, but to an organization that demands you sacrifice the people you're supposed to love most. We'll never know what Tom Cruise thinks about in his private moments. We'll never know if he lies awake at night, thinking about the daughter he hasn't seen in over 12 years, wondering what she looks like now, what her voice sounds like, what her dreams and fears are. We'll never know if he feels the weight of missing her childhood, her adolescence, her transition into adulthood. We'll never know if he regrets the choice he made, or if he's convinced himself that he made the right decision. But what we do know is that a 19-year-old young woman grew up without her father, not because he was incapable or unavailable, but because he chose an organization over her. Katie Holmes has spoken about her close bond with Suri and the pride she feels in the strong, independent young woman she's raised. Katie was there for everything. Katie carried the full weight of parenthood alone. Katie raised a daughter who, despite the extraordinary circumstances of having Tom Cruise as a father and growing up in the shadow of that fame and that absence, seems to be thriving. But Katie also had to watch her daughter experience the pain of paternal rejection, had to answer impossible questions about why daddy wasn't there, had to somehow make sense of a situation that makes no sense. The tragedy isn't just what Tom lost, it's what Suri lost. It's the birthday parties without a father, the school performances where other kids' dads were in the audience, the graduations and achievements celebrated without paternal pride, the questions from classmates about why her famous father was never around, the therapy bills, the trust issues, the relationship patterns that will be shaped by this foundational absence. That's the real cost of Tom Cruise's choices, and it's a cost that Suri will carry for the rest of her life, regardless of how well she appears to be doing. As Tom Cruise continues making his action movies and performing his death-defying stunts well into his 60s, as he continues to be celebrated as one of cinema's greatest stars, we should remember what lies behind that carefully constructed image. A daughter he hasn't seen in over a decade, a relationship destroyed by organizational demands, a family torn apart by ideology, and a man who, for all his success and fame and accomplishment, couldn't or wouldn't do the one thing that actually matters, be a father to his child at 63. Tom Cruise's tragedy is beyond heartbreaking, not because of scandal or public failure, but because of a quiet, ongoing loss that's been playing out for over 12 years. It's the tragedy of a man who seemingly has everything but has lost what matters most. It's the tragedy of a daughter growing up without a father who's alive, successful, and capable but simply absent by choice. And it's the tragedy of an organization that demands such loyalty that families are torn apart in its name. Whether Tom will ever attempt to reconcile with Suri, whether she would even be open to that reconciliation after so many years of absence, Whether there's any path forward for them at all remains unknown. But what is known is that every day that passes is another day lost, another opportunity missed, another moment of fatherhood that can never be reclaimed. What's your perspective on Tom Cruise's estrangement from his daughter? Is reconciliation possible after 12 years of no contact? And what responsibility do organizations like Scientology bear when their policies result in families being torn apart? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you found this video thoughtful and informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth coverage of the untold stories behind Hollywood's biggest names. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and remember, behind every celebrity success story, there's often a human cost that doesn't make the headlines.